All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Brothers War podcast. I'm Ryan Green.
And I'm Zack Taylor. And we talk about all things magic, but mostly Commander.
All right, and this week we're going to get a little salty here on the Brothers Warcast. We're going to be talking about saltiness in Commander and what you can do to avoid it and maybe how to handle it when you do, as well as the Brothers War secret list style cards that make us salty.
Yep.
So that is the plan. So before we get into all of that, I just want to say thank you out there for listening. We really appreciate it and watching. And if you appreciate us, please make sure to hit the like button below and subscribe.
Yeah.
Do the bell ring a ding ding ding, as well as tell a friend. We'd really appreciate it.
For sure.
All right. So Zach, what's been going on in your life, man?
Not too much other than the usual stuff. Finally gotten to play my my Tezzeret deck a little bit. It's been pretty fun.
Embracing your inner villain?
Yep, pretty much. I mean, I've played 3 games so far. I've won one of those games. The first one, I didn't get anything, get what I needed. The second one, I did Sharoom and was a Disciple of the Vault.
Mm-hmm.
And Fire Extinct Metamorph, did the little switcheroo business.
Little inners and leaves dance for Disciple of the Vault triggers, yeah.
Yep. And the third game, I could have won, I should have won. I didn't see my my way to win until it was over, but I still had fun in all those games.
All right. Well, there you go, listeners and viewers and audience. We deck to deck, and then Zach made it, and he played it.
So, what's going on with you, man?
All right. Well, it's time for your hashtag MTG Dad moment, and this one's a cute one. So my daughter, Valentine's Day has come and gone, but she's kind of been enamored with like the whole Valentine thing. She has a book, Vampirina book, that's about Valentines, and they exchange Valentines at school and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes when I give her a bath, she's got these little foam letters in there, and she draws on them with like a bathtub chalk, and she'll say like, "This is a Valentine for my classmate Grant. Dear Grant, I love you." She'll say that, and it's cute, right? But then the other day she was in there and she's like, "Oh, I'm making a Valentine for Mal, her brother," right? And I said, "Oh, what does it say?" Right? Like I asked her, and she said, "Dear Mal, you love me." Not quite grasping the concept of a Valentine,
right?
Here, but he does love her, but maybe he doesn't need to be told,
right? I think he already knows.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
That's cute.
Very cute. All right, so that's going to move us right on into the thinking of one Mr. Mike Condon.
Yep.
You are a scholar and a gentleman.
Gentleman and a scholar.
You are our silent partner, and we really appreciate you.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so that is going to move us right on into...
We have another thank you, though.
What?
We have another thank you.
Oh, okay, let's do it.
So, we now have an intern, T.H. Elliott. Just want to thank Elliott this week for pulling a bunch of cards for me for the Tezzeret deck. I just couldn't be bothered to do it myself and had him do what interns do. Thanks, Elliott.
Free labor.
Yep.
Right. Okay, yeah. So before we get into the main topic here, the salinity, as it were, we're going to do a segment we like to call...
Commander Rules.
All right, so it's time for Commander Rules, and this week we're going to do Rule 602.5A.
Oh, snap.
This one is for you, Zach. I'm going to read it here, and I'm going to read the main rule first, which is just 602.5.
Okay.
Which is, a player can't begin to activate an ability that's prohibited from being activated. How does that sit with you?
Sits well. Feels like it's saying you can't do something that you can't do.
That's pretty much exactly what it's saying. Okay.
So if I have New Karn and Microsynth Lattice, can't start to tap my lands.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't even begin. Right? I can't even.
Don't even start making plans to tap those lands because I can't.
All right, so 602.5A says, a creature's activated ability with the tap symbol or the untap symbol in its activation cost can't be activated unless the creature has been under its controller's control since the start of the most recent turn. Ignore this rule for creatures with haste. See Rule 702.10.
Is that the rule for haste?
I assume so.
Okay.
Actually, we can... yes, it is.
Okay. That makes sense. Creatures that have summoning sickness can't be activated.
Yeah, but this is one that maybe the beginners out there, like it didn't make sense. Like,
sure.
I know that I can't attack on the first turn, but why?
Right.
Well, this rule is why. And an interesting bit here is if you steal a creature, right?
Yep.
It's not been in play under your control since the start of the turn. So it now has summoning sickness again, right? So there's little intricacies here. So
for sure.
All right, well, that has been Commander Rules, which is going to move us right on into the main topic. Zach, why don't you hit us off here at the start?
All right, so we're going to talk about getting salty. Let's be real and be honest with ourselves. We've all gotten salty from time to time. Something happens, best laid plans, get blown up, don't get the cards you need. Someone does something real annoying and locks you out. It just happens. I mean, it's happened to me before. I tend not to generally get salty. The only thing that really, really makes me salty is when I mess up. Like fairly recently, maybe like a month and a half ago. I don't know. Time is a construct. I was playing a game and I got killed and I was like, wait, oh my gosh. And like as I was skewing, I was like, wait, I hit out and I was like trying to figure out and I was just like, it doesn't matter. I was just like, I was just aggravated. I was like, yeah.
More angry with yourself than others, right?
Yeah, for sure. But like, regardless of being angry with myself or at others, I was still angry. And I think it definitely like affected other people. And I did end up apologizing for it because, it wasn't right for me to get angry, even if it was at myself, because, it makes things a little awkward sometimes when someone gets salty, even if it's just with themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And we should say saltiness is kind of that, bad manners kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of being a little gruff. It's slamming your deck down on the table or
throwing your keys.
Or walking away in frustration, right? Just something like that, right? And it's usually about a game. And, we want to try to not do that. So,
sure.
So we talked about what makes you salty.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I got to talk about how Ryan gets salty. And for me, for the most part, it happens. I think for me, it happens when I perceive that I'm not the biggest threat at the table, but I get like teamed up on or ganged up on anyway. And I think that's usually like what tends to make me salty. That and like not being able to play my cards. Right?
Yeah.
But I think that for me specifically is how I engage the saltometer, as it were. So I don't know, but saltiness is different for different people.
Yeah, exactly. Like different people have different triggers. Like I think what you said, not necessarily attacking me, but people not going after the biggest threat is just kind of like, But yeah, like I said, it can be different for different people. Just, we all have different experiences.
So audience out there, what makes you salty? Right, let us know via Twitter, right? You can reach me on Twitter at Green Geek.
Or me at Z4CK38.
And if you want to hit us both up,
it's at the Brothers Warcast.
Yeah, got there.
And you can also leave it in the comments below.
Indeed you can. All right. So one thing to think about here on the saltiness spectrum here is if you're playing a 4-player game, all other things being equal, you really should have like a 25% chance to win that game.
Right.
Right? That's pretty low, right?
It is.
That's that's real low. And so if you're getting salty about losing a game that you only had like really a 25% chance to win in the beginning,
right?
Like maybe just kind of like internalize that a little bit or like go, okay, well, I probably wasn't supposed to, like 3/4 of these I'm not going to win anyway. So like maybe like you can take that into heart and go, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't get as salty. Although I will say, if you start losing a whole bunch in a row, it's real easy to go down Salt Road.
Yeah, it is. But I think like you need to be self-aware about that. And something that you can do is, like you've been doing, writing down all of your games. Write down all of your games and write, whether you win, whether you don't. And then after maybe a few months, depending on how often you play, just kind of tally it up and see where you're at, right? If you're in the 25% mark, well, you're winning about as often as you should.
You're doing what you're supposed to do, yeah.
If you're a little bit more, or a little bit less, maybe you need to shore some things up, and maybe you need
to listen to some more Commander Rules,
right? And if you're a little bit over, maybe you're going a little too hard.
Yeah. So no, that's a really good point, and I think it's pretty cool to like record all your games.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to like maybe at the end of the year, like look at the stats for the year. How many games did I play? Like that's one that I really want to know, right?
Yeah,
like
for sure.
How many games of Commander do I play in a year? I think it's less than I think.
Yeah, I think it is too, and like. I'm kind of sad that I kind of fell off the train on doing that.
I will say that War of the Spark has been such an amazing draft format that's part of the reason.
So good. Yeah, we drafted this week. We went to an F&M at our store Mothership, and was pretty good times.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay. So let's get back to the saltness.
Yep.
And, okay. So, what can we do as a community about getting salty? Are we getting salty more often than we should? Right. So, Zach, what do you do when you feel yourself getting salty? Do you have any techniques to like handle it?
Yeah, like if I'm starting to get salty, if someone plays a card that makes me salty, I just I'm just like, look, I try to think to myself, it's like, look, they're playing their deck, right? Everyone's trying to win, and that's what they're doing, right? They're not doing anything to me specifically. It's like, well, okay. And then I just kind of, maybe when it's not my turn, I step away and take a sip of water and come back and try to chill.
All right. So I think it's important also to remind ourselves that, we're playing a game.
Yeah.
And also, the main point of Commander, we're not playing for tournament prizes or anything.
No.
We're playing for fun, right? So like if you find yourself getting salty really often,
yeah,
that's probably bad, right? Like this is a leisure activity. It's supposed to be fun. It's a game.
Right.
And we need to like think about that as we're playing so that like we can remind ourselves like, okay, this is a game, right? Like I don't have to get salty.
Yeah, there's nothing on the line.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
And if your pride's starting to get into it, maybe that's something you need to evaluate.
Sure. Okay. So one thing that I'm going to try to do better, and I think it's something that we could all learn from, is like maybe like look inwards and think about your current mood, right? Because there are times when stuff that's outside of Magic is getting you down, or you've had a bad interaction, or you just didn't get enough sleep, or you're hungry, right?
Yeah,
like that could be a thing.
Yeah.
So like just take a moment to like think about your mood, right? Like are you in a mood where you might be more prone to getting salty? Maybe that's like a red flag to like walk away for a little bit, or like you had a night scheduled and you're like, I need to take this night off. I need to just kind of like chill and relax and do something like to refresh myself. That's something I want to do more of.
Yeah, and I'll definitely admit, I've skipped sessions of League because I've just like woken up and like, I'm not in for it today. And that's what I do when I get angry or aggravated in real life is I step away and try to isolate myself, think about what's going on and refresh. And the same thing goes for Magic, right? Like I don't want to ruin someone else's time.
Absolutely. And kudos to you for that, by the way. That's a hard thing to do, right? Especially because you might feel like you have this commitment, right? But like if you being there and you're more likely to get upset and that's going to like dampen everybody else's day, stepping back is really good. And it's a hard thing to do for some folks, I think. I mean, myself included.
True. So another thing that you can do about getting salty, there are cards that, make you salty. Well, you analyze your meta, think about it, and run answers for those cards, right? At the Rose War, we have always been like, hey, running enchantment and artifact removal, and running creature removal just goes without saying. And honestly, those are the three things that most of the cards that generate saltiness are, right?
Yeah, I mean, remove that salt. Put a filter on it.
Right.
Get that water cleansed, I guess.
Desalination.
So another thing that you can try to do is not take things personally. And this kind of harkens back to what you said. Like, everybody's trying to win the game.
They are.
Right? So, don't get mad at somebody for trying to win the game.
Right. It's pretty simple. It's nothing personal, right? And if you think
strictly business,
right?
Strictly Magic.
And if you think it is something personal, maybe outside of the game, you should maybe talk with that person, make sure everything's cool. Maybe you've got something that you need to work out that's not related to Magic, or maybe they were just trying to win, and they'll affirm that to you. And I think communication is definitely key here.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a firm believer in communication. I think that it makes most of life better, to be honest. Okay.
And kind of going with that as well, if someone seems to be, kind of acting like a little different than they normally do, they seem maybe a little bit more aggravated or whatever, right? Put yourself in their shoes and think, it's like, well, is something else going on? Am I doing something? Maybe if you see somebody doing that, you don't, I like to talk a lot of smack when we're playing. Like I do.
Oh yeah, but I mean, it's all in good fun.
Fun.
It's not meant to be mean. It's just meant to be, it's bonding essentially.
Oh, exactly. But if Ryan comes in, he's feeling a little surly that day or whatever. I'm not
walking with my head down like Charlie Brown,
right? He's got a little cloud over him. I'm not gonna like talk a bunch of smack to him, right? And then because we're friends after the game, I'm like, hey man, are you okay? What's going on? And maybe there's something I can do to help. I think that's a big thing.
All right. And so, like you said earlier about communication, have the talk, right?
Yeah.
Like have the talk about like what your expectations are for the game.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do that often enough, I think that has a good chance of like lowering the chance of getting salty,
Absolutely.
right? Because if everybody's on the same page or everybody's like communicated their desires and their expectations, I think that more naturally you're going to lead to like this more like collective experience.
Right. And like something that I think just leads to saltiness in life in general is expectation versus reality, right? So if you don't have the talk, you sit down, you're playing whatever you want, like a fun deck, right? You're playing like Ryan's Mr. OPC Grinzo
Mr.
deck,
OPC.
right? You know, that deck's fun, but it's not hardcore, right? It's not like it's not like crazy strong, crazy.
Speak for yourself.
Well,
Mr. OP, we don't even have to put the C. It's just overpowered.
My bad.
No, you're right. It's not the greatest, but it is fun.
Yeah. And so say you don't talk about that, and you sit down, everyone else is playing much more hardcore decks, right? You just get blown out. Yeah, you're probably going to feel a little salty about it. But the thing is, you were expecting everyone to probably play decks around the same power level as you. And I think that's why you should have the talk. It's like, yeah, okay, well, what are we playing? How strong are our decks, et cetera? And then, you know, once you know the circumstances that you're playing the game under, you'll feel better about the outcome, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And another point here is focus on having fun.
Yeah.
Just as much, if not more so. Honestly, I think more so than winning, right? Because again, you should only be winning about 25% of those games. So if you're focusing on having fun, the games where you don't win are going to be more meaningful. And if you're focusing on having fun and you're focusing on everyone else having fun, that's going to lead to like a better experience, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. And like, I don't know, I try to win. I like to win. But like, for me, having fun is like, I don't know, doing something crazy or seeing something crazy happen, right? Like, I think that's the best, whether I win or not. Yeah,
or like being able to like subtly like thwart somebody's plan.
Right.
That could also be fun, right? Like maybe they still end up winning, but like it takes a turn longer and you get to like have like a personal victory in that, right?
The moral victory.
Yeah. So I will say that oftentimes, like we were talking about the Mr. OPC deck, the Grenzo Havoc Razor deck, when I play that deck, I'm not trying to win. Now, when I'm playing, I still play to win. I'm not just playing to goof around. I take it, as seriously as you can take a game of Magic. But I approach it from the aspect of like, I want to see like what cool things can happen. I want to like look at these mono red cards and like have them do something. It just feels very off color pie.
Yeah.
Right. And when I don't have the expectation of winning, I don't really recall a time I've ever gotten salty playing that deck. And so I think that's a lesson we can all learn, which is, try to like change your expectations a little bit when you're going into a game, and also make a deck that's for fun, right? Like not, it's hard if you only have like 2 or 3 decks, but if you have a lot, like try to bring some that are more wacky and zany.
Right. And like one of the last games I played with you where you played that deck, right? You didn't win, but you electric dominance for 27? Like
yes, and it did not resolve.
I know. I was so sad, but like that's pretty cool, right? Like that
was awesome.
To me, that's a win, right?
It felt like a win.
For sure.
All right. So here on the Brothers War, we like to turn our focus inwards a lot, right? We want to say, do we sometimes behave in a way that could be, pushing somebody over the salt threshold and bringing them into Salt Town, right? We don't want to do that. And so a good way is to, have a little empathy.
I agree.
Right. And just kind of like try to like look at the people you're playing with, be they friends or strangers. Right. And just go, I made a comment and like see their reaction and go, that didn't go over so well. Right. Maybe I'll dial it back a little bit or, just try to make some conversation also, like try to go the opposite of saltiness, like go like savory or sweet. I don't know what we want to call it. Yeah. But try to lighten the mood, try to like make some jokes or get people talking, about their experiences or what's been going on with them. Especially if you're waiting for somebody to tutor through their library and they're taking a long time. You're just like, no, come on, why didn't you know what you're going to go get?
Right.
Like instead of doing that, take the time and go, hey, Zach, how's your cat doing?
Right. I think it's, put yourself in other people's shoes and like think about how the things that you're doing or you do during games, how that would make you feel if they were doing it to you. I think that's important. And like I said, I think conversations a lot of is a big deal, right? Because I've played tournament Magic before. I used to play Modern real heavy, and I've played Standard. And it's like land, go, and then like usually you don't talk. And it's like land, go, and you do your stuff, and you just act real serious, right? With EDH, because nothing's on the line. I like talking to people. I like hearing about their day. Especially if like one person's going through their stuff or thinking or whatever. I try not to talk to that person, but like Brandon and I, my roommate, were playing a game with a friend of ours the other day, and he was playing a deck of mine that he'd never really seen before, and he's and we just gave him time to do what he needed to do, and we just kind of talked, and I felt like that worked well because I wasn't gonna harass him. Why don't you know what cards are in this deck? Well, it's because he's never seen it before, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense. And another thing that I like to do is like, if I see somebody playing something that's like off the beaten path, I like to talk to them about it and be like,
for sure.
like, what inspired you to make that deck? Or what's cool about it? Because number one, I just like hearing stories.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right. And number two, I like to, engage with that other person. So that's a thing that you can do to kind of definitely just increase the overall level mood of the table. Yep. So
the ambiance, if you will.
Yes. Okay. So what's this next point about?
I like to get candles out and set them on each side, little candelabra. Play some cards
of Thanos,
right? I want one of those so bad.
Man, that card is so expensive now.
It is. It's so expensive.
It's 4 digits.
Yep. So another thing to think about here, and well, we've already kind of mentioned sports. Like, are you winning more than 25% of the games? If you are, like, maybe you're just that good of a player. That could be it, and that probably has something to do with it. But maybe you're building your decks a little too hard, right? Like, I think, what is it, 75%? Is that what Jason Alt does?
Yeah, that's the Jason Alt theory, the 75% rule. Like, bring a deck that can, like, run with the big boys, but also just kind of, like, plays down if it needs to and make sure everybody has fun.
For sure, because I think that everyone having fun is just way more important than winning, right? I don't want to win and everyone's feeling real salty towards me. Like, that's not fun, right? Like, man, that makes me think of that game with Kenji and those other two guys in LA when I was like going off with that with the Niv Mizzet deck.
Oh yeah.
And like I was going off and I was just like living the dream, and then they just stopped me dead. And like I wasn't mad.
No, you really weren't. And actually, that was really, like, as somebody who witnessed it, it was really cool to see.
Yeah, because like I like to see cool things whether I'm doing them or not, and they did something really cool, and like I thought that was really sweet. Like, usually no one stops you from going off like that, but they did, and it was cool.
So one thing I like to do, like if we're playing like a multi-game session and it's like game 3 and I've like won one of the other games or maybe even both of them, a lot of times I'll try to see if I can borrow somebody else's deck because I'm not going to be as familiar with it. It may not be tuned to my play style, and so I might not play it as well. And, it gives me, this chance of like, well, let me have a different experience this game. Maybe not like winning isn't exactly what I want. Like I want somebody else to have that good feeling, right? Yeah. But also like I can play somebody else's deck and I can have a conversation with them and I can, make suggestions and like, hey, why is this in here? Oh, that's so cool, right? So that's something that I try to do sometimes. So definitely that's a technique you can use to desalinate some stuff. So do you often find people groaning when you play specific cards?
That is the thing that happens sometimes.
Is there a card in particular?
Omniscient sometimes.
Okay. Yeah. I've probably been one of the groaners.
I think that's the biggest one lately. It's just like omniscience and like, and like inevitably someone at the table will be like, what does that do? And someone else at the table will be like, lets him dump his hand. And I'm like, yeah. And then it gets countered, right? Like I haven't had one stick for a while, but that's 7. What about you? Is there a card that you play that people kind of groan about?
I mean, I think probably like Time Stretch, like 8 blue sorcery, take 2 extra turns.
Yeah.
Like, and I think part of the reason that gets people salty is that I'm playing more Magic than everybody else. Right. Or if I'm doing a deck that has like lots of play on other people's turns with like a Seedborn Muse or something, it's like, oh, I'm playing 50% of the Magic in this 4-player game. And that's not great.
Yeah. Man. The other day when we were playing that game, the guy we were playing with played Time Warp. And then he I don't remember how he recurred it, but then he played it again. And it was also he could just draw cards. That's pretty fun.
5 mana, draw a card. Well, you get your mana back too. So that's pretty good. Okay. So what's this next one about?
Are there people, who don't want to play with you, right? Like,
this is probably a hard one to know because they probably just aren't playing with you.
Yeah, right? Or like, do they get kind of grumbly when you sit down to play? And, think about that. And like, yeah, when you're going to like Magic Fests or you're at your local game store, it's a little bit harder, like you said, to really know the people. But within your own play group, if people are like not inviting you to like game nights or something like that, maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe you need to have a talk with your friends and find out what's going on. You know, maybe your decks are just too strong. Maybe, you know, you have a bad attitude, or they perceive that you have a bad attitude, whether you have one or not.
Well, and if you don't communicate about it, nothing's going to get solved, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's totally true. And I think one of the other things here that you can ask yourself, if you want to make sure you're not getting super salty, is, you know, am I a sore winner? Like, when I win, do I kind of gloat and make other people feel bad? Like, I definitely don't want to be. And I hope that if I am, people tell me. But same with the sore loser kind of situation, right? Like, if you're just like, oh, one more turn and I would have had it, or, you know, I was land screwed or whatever, like, that's not great.
Like, an example of this to me was, and I wasn't trying to be a slow, I was just making kind of a joke about it, but it came off like that. Because when we were playing that game the other day, I was like, oh, I fetched the wrong land. Oh, if only I'd had this land. And I said it like 3 or 4 times. And I was just being dramatic, right? The joke that I was trying to make came across as whining. And, you know, that's not great. I don't want people to think I'm whining. Like, that was definitely a mistake on my part. And then I was like, I just stopped talking about it and played the game.
But see, and there you go, like taking the time to think about it and like go, oh, you know, maybe the way I was acting impacted other people. Like, that's like good, right? More people need to do that, I think. So, you know, if you can think about, you know, how other people are feeling, there's that empathy word again, right? I think it's going to go a long way towards, you know, basically making the whole experience better for everyone.
Yeah, including yourself, right? Like, I think, you know, the empathy and the self-awareness to, you know, think about these things really, like, helps you, which, you know, that's self-interest, that's fine, but also helps everyone else. And it's just all around good.
Well, and it's a good life skill to have.
It really is.
And if you can practice it in your hobby, in your fun leisure time, and make yourself better in the meantime in real life, like, that's a win.
Yeah, I mean, I'll for sure go on record and say, you know, being empathetic in life and putting yourself in others' shoes, like, yeah, that's definitely a decent way to live. I mean, that's how I try to live. I mean, I know that's how you try to live.
What size shoe do you wear?
We're an 11.5.
I could probably make that work.
Oh, yeah?
I wear 12. We could swap shoes.
Yeah, we could. Yeah. Apparently, our handwriting looks pretty similar, except that my, like, sometimes I make a capital letter a little bit smaller to make it lowercase.
You got me with that one. All right. Okay. So it's time in the show for us to move on into the secret list.
Secrets.
All right. So disclaimer, our list, not very many people in our group run mass land destruction, right?
I don't think anybody does.
Yeah, we don't see it very often at all. So none of those cards made this list, although, you know, if we saw them all the time, I'm sure they would.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And like targeted land removal, you know, your strip mines, your wastelands, etc.
Oh, that's totally fine.
Yeah, that's fine. That makes sense. Like, I don't get salty about that.
Unless you're like land screwed.
Yeah, I mean,
I've only got 2 lands in play. Like, they strip your basic island. No.
I mean, I'm not mad at the being like the land destruction so much at that point. Is I'm obviously not the aggressor in that game. It's like turn 8 and I've got 2 lands. Game's about to end. Oh, let me just get Zack.
All right. So another thing here that we want to say is that EDH Rec has a list of the top salt inducing cards. And we use that as kind of like a thing to look through to make these lists. Now, not all the cards are from that, but it's a pretty excellent resource. And the link is here in the show notes. And just want to like throw a huge shout out to EDH Rec. Like, that site is great. I use it all the time.
Same.
And like having this vote that happened to like see which cards make the salt was really cool. And just the team over there is doing like awesome work.
Really. And I appreciate them for just like putting together my next deck list.
Okay. So let's move on into the list. Whose turn is it to go first?
I don't know. We could roll a die. Do we have a die?
No, you know what? I'm just going to see whoever gets there first is who gets there.
I mean, I was already there.
Okay, well then go. You can do it.
So
we're going to do number 8.
Oh,
it's a top 8
hold
list.
On. We should go. I put my most salty thing,
list.
my most salty thing first. Okay. My number 8 is Elish Norn, Grand Cenobite. It's 5 white, legendary creature Prater, 4/7 with a vigilance. Other creatures you control get +2/+2. Creatures opponent controlled get -2/-2. This card is just real annoying, and it's real hard to deal with. I play a lot of token decks, and tokens just there's nothing you can do there.
Oh yeah,
It's
you could try running more removal.
I could, and I do. I mean, I run removal, but like I see this thing sometimes, and I'm just like, crud. The deck, the most recent time this thing really like messed me up was Saheeli and blue-red. It's a little bit hard for removal.
Well, the other thing about the Grand Cenobite here is that even with removal, the -2/-2 is going to happen. So if you're a token deck and you have removal in hand,
oh yeah,
you're still going to lose your board.
yeah, for sure.
So yeah, Cenobite's way up there. It's a really good card, and it does feel like, because it's such a swing, it's like a 4 power and toughness swing, right? Like +2 to their side, -2 to your side. That's real hard to fight through. So yeah, I can see that making you a little salty.
The only thing that makes me more salty than that is when someone else, another player, copies it, and it's like -4/-4 all around,
and theirs cancel each other out. And oh man, oof. Okay, so number 8 on my list is a card that is named Saskia the Unyielding. Should I read it?
You should.
Okay. Saskia is black, red, green, white for a 3/4 legendary creature human soldier with vigilance and haste. As Saskia the Unyielding enters the battlefield, choose a player. That's where the salt comes in.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, it deals that much damage to the chosen player. And I think one of the things that makes me so salty when this card gets played and names me is that I do feel singled out.
Yeah.
Right? And also,
I can see that.
I feel like I have my defenses set up. I have my game plan going. I've got like my propagandas or whatever, #Dirtletown, whatever, right? But because of that, it's like, oh, all that's for naught because they just attack somebody else and I can't stop it, And so I think it takes like some of the agency away, and that's kind of what makes me salty about it.
Yeah, like you don't have a choice in the matter anymore. It just happens.
I mean, it's really fun when somebody else gets named. So I guess there's that.
That's always true.
So what's your number 7?
It is Bogus, God of Slaughter.
Bogus put the laughter in slaughter.
Yep.
There's one that makes me groan for sure.
It's Bogus is 2 black-red legendary enchantment creature god. It's a 7/5 with indestructible. As long as your devotion to black and red is less than 7, Bogus isn't a creature. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, Bogus deals 2 damage to that player unless he or she sacrifices a creature. Again, this card, it's only if it's in the 99, it's fine. That doesn't bother me as much. But if it's the commander, it's hard. Like, because you have to exile it to get rid of it.
That's true, yeah. All the gods are tough to get rid of.
They are. And, if you exile it, it's just going back to the command zone and coming back. And again, I don't play a lot of creature-heavy decks. So I end up just taking that damage, and it stacks up. It stacks up real fast, and it's a little annoying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you're like me in that I try to do like non-traditional strategies for winning.
Agreed.
I don't really like to win in the attack zone. I mean, I do. I have decks that do it, but it's just such a commonly fought against thing that I like to try to win on other axes. And Bogus makes that really tough because, I'm not really playing a ton of creatures. Yeah. And so I'm just constantly having that life loss. And it feels like it does shorten the game a little bit. So yeah, that's a card that could have made my list. It didn't. Any takers on how many we're going to overlap on? I bet it's at least 1.
I'd say 1 to 3, maybe 3.
I'll pick. So you're going to go 3?
I'm going to go 3.
I'll say 2.
Okay.
All right. There you go. Okay.
Have you overlapped yet?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'll take the under.
Okay.
Okay. So my number 7 is a card called Havoc Festival. Do you know what that one does?
I don't.
This card is very similar to Bogus. It is 4 black-red, so also Rakdos in color. It's an enchantment, hardest permanent type to remove. That's not a god, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay, so it says players can't gain life.
Oh.
Okay, and then it says, at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player loses half of his or her life rounded up.
Ooh, I didn't know about that bit. Ooh.
Yeah, this is a clock. Like, if you don't remove it, and here's the thing, like, they play it and you're next to go, and you're like, okay, I lose half my life, rounded up. I'm at 40, now I'm at 20, and I kill it. Like, okay, I lost half my life. Nobody else did. So it's like, you don't even want to kill it, right? You're like, well, I'm going to wait until somebody else can deal with it because I want everybody else to lose half their life. And then the game just gets really short. And I think the shorter games are where you don't get to see your deck do its thing, and that's where the salt comes in.
Yeah, that's definitely at least how I think yours two decks are. They require a bit of setup, right? So early on, when what was the CM saying that, like 5, 6? Yeah, like I don't know. It just seems weird. And does it hit the person who played it?
It does.
Okay,
but it hits them last.
Yeah. I could definitely, if I had some sort of like instant speed removal, I'd wait till like it went around the table, hit them, and then I'd kill it.
Take some of your own medicine before I blow it up. Right. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so on to your number 6.
Yep. Mine, this one is another Prater. Vorinclex, Voice of Hunger.
Well, we have an overlap.
I thought we might. This is the one that I was talking to you about earlier that I was like, I'm not going to say it, but I think it'd be on your list.
And it is.
It's 6, green, legendary creature Prater, 7/6 with trample. Whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana to your mana pool of any type that land produced. Whenever an opponent taps a land for mana, that land doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. It's just real annoying. Like, it's mana denial for you and mana ramp for them. And even if like it gets to your turn, and I saw this happen the other day, you remove it, your lands still don't untap, even if it's gone. And that's real aggravating. Because, again, it's like, well, I did this for the table, and now I'm taking the hit.
Yeah, and your other 3 people still get a chance to, like, develop their board some more, and you take a whole turn off, basically. Yeah, it feels rough. It's actually number 3 on my list.
Oh, wow.
Pretty high up there. The old Praetor, Vorinclex. Really hungry. My stomach is grumbling. That's the voice of hunger there.
Oh.
Had to try it. I don't think it hit, but that's all right. So that was your number 6, right?
8, 7. Yep, that was my 6. What's your number 6?
My number 6 is Planeswalker. Inspired by War of the Spark.
Is it blue Teferi?
It is not.
Okay,
I like that card.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay, this is a card known as Sorin Markov.
Okay,
this is 3 black for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker Sorin. You can +2 Sorin Markov to deal 2 damage to target creature or player, and you gain 2 life. Okay, yeah. No salt there. That's
too
cool.
bad. Yeah.
Don't really want to pay 6 for that, but cool. All right. -3. Target player's life total becomes 10.
Ooh.
That's the one I don't like.
Yeah.
That is rough. You recognize the art on that?
Yeah. Is that pricey, Sorin?
I don't know.
I've never seen anybody play that one.
It
seems real aggravating.
It feels super bad, right? Because you have enough loyalty to just like drop it and it's like, okay, you're at 10. Yep. And oftentimes, like when that happens, like you don't get another turn. Like either that person kills you or the next person in line kills you, and it's just that's all she wrote. But there's another like a little extra salt on the side here.
What?
-7. You control target player during that player's next turn.
Oh wow.
It's got Mindslaver too.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're in like green-black and you've got doubling season, you can be like, well, I can make your life total 10, or I can take your turn, and they're both not great. They both feel pretty bad. So yeah, Sorin makes my list.
Yeah, I'm gonna go buy a place out of those after this. No, I'm not.
Boo!
I'm not. That's messed up. Like, I don't know. Like, it just seems like a lot of aggro, and like if you can't finish the person off that you took to 10, like
somebody else will.
Yeah, like somebody else will, and like you're kind of asking for it at that point, right?
So Sorin Markov is around the $15 mark, so not crazy, but somewhat pricey.
Right.
All right. So what's next on your list?
Rampaging Baloths.
Really? Okay. You know what? I can see it, but tell the audience at home why.
It's 4 green for a creature beast. It's a 6/6 with trample. It has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may create a 4/4 green beast creature token. If they were creating 1 a turn, that could be fine. But this is green, and with green, you're almost always ramping. So I've seen people play like 4 lands after they played this guy, and they've got like 4 creatures, and it just keeps getting bigger. It gets out of control really quick, and outside of a board wipe, there's not anything you can really do about it. I mean, you can definitely run stuff to kind of deal with it, but even if you get rid of the Baloth, right, with like a single target removal, there's still a bunch of 4/4s for you to contend with. It's not great. It's not a great situation.
Well, and I will say, I think probably one of the things that could make this, like, it's not on my list, obviously, but it's a mostly fair Magic card. The Lord Windgrace decks do make things happen with the Baloths, but I think the thing that makes it kind of like deceptive here is that it doesn't look all that bad. And also, like, usually there's like something else scarier at the table. And so it gets left alone and it gets that time to build and it gets that time to make those tokens. And so I think that's probably part of it.
Yeah. What about you? What's your next one?
My next one is another one where I think we're going to overlap. I'm holding my phone to the side.
I saw what it was.
Did you?
Yeah.
It's Xenagos, God of Revels, 3 red-green for a 6/5 legendary enchantment creature god. It's got indestructible, and as long as your devotion to red and green is less than 7, Xenagos isn't a creature. Cool. At the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gains haste and gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is that creature's power. Okay, so is this on your list?
It's not actually.
Oh, this is one I thought would be an overlap.
I mean, that card really annoys me, but I felt like the things that I put were slightly more. It's definitely like an honorable mention. Like, it's definitely number 9.
Number 9, with some sort of a spear-looking trident thing.
Yeah.
But
fire in front of him.
Yeah, there you go. But the reason I don't like this is that it doesn't allow me to sorcery speed interact with stuff, right? Like, I have a Wrath. It's not going to kill this guy, and then on their turn, boom, something's going to come in, and you have no idea what it is. And it's going to be potentially lethal. And so it's like you have to have instant speed interaction to deal with it. And it also, like, what ends up happening there is, like, I can't, like, if I do have the instant speed reaction, right, I can't take the time to develop my board because I'm like, if I do, they can come at me and I'll just lose, right? So it gets to this game where it's like it snowballs really quickly because it's like, okay, well, I leave open the stuff and then maybe they play a thing and they attack me and I remove it. It's like, but the next turn they play another thing and I don't know. It doesn't feel great to play against and it's really hard to remove. And that's, I'm getting a little salty just talking about it.
I am too. Like, did you see my eyes like kind of twitching? Yeah, I wanted to put that on my list, but I was like, I don't know, I want to be a little more creative. Like, I feel like that's something I like maybe whine about a little too often. I was like, it's too obvious for me. It's too obvious.
Oh, you got the hipster list going on.
Yeah, this is the hipster list. You're gonna love my next one.
Okay, let's hear it.
It is not a single card.
Oh, you did it. You did the thing, and I didn't do the thing this time. I actually only have 8 cards. Actually, I do have some honorable mentions that I didn't do, but man, you the Ryan Gambit pays off.
It did. Mine is hardcore ramp. Like, ramp is fine, right? I think ramp is fine, but when you like hardcore ramp, you're like,
my deck has 15 mana ramp spells in it,
right? Like,
and they're all like 2 mana or 3 mana.
And I'm gonna like list these pretty quickly, and there'll be pictures in the video. But exploration is one green enchantment. You can play an extra land. Asusa, Lost but Seeking, 2 and a green. You can play 2 additional lands on each of your turns. Granted, it's a 1/2. You can probably deal with that pretty quickly. But if you don't, another one is Oracle of Moldea. It's a 2/2 creature that lets you play an additional land, but with your top card revealed, you can play the top card of your library if it's a land card. And then Summer's Bloom. 1 in a green, you may play up to 3 additional lands each turn. Like, the thing for me about that kind of hardcore ramp is these people sometimes end up with like turn 4 or 5, they have like 10 lands, right?
So because it's like paired with card draw, they're able to just make all these additional land drops. And later in the game when they've drawn like a bunch of cards, like it snowballs even further.
Right.
Okay, I can see that.
And the thing is, it's about resources, right? Like, they can cast 2-3 spells a turn, right? Well, I'm stuck casting like 1.
Well, it's kind of similar to the whole Vorinclex situation, right?
Yeah,
because it's like they have more and you don't. I mean, Vorinclex like halves your stuff, whereas this doesn't. So there's that. But all right, okay, I can see it. Not on my list at all, but I get it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get it too wrong. It's just, I don't know, it feels a little aggravating. It feels like a situation that I can't, like, come back from.
Well, and because mass land destruction is frowned upon, there's not a lot of answers.
Agreed.
Other than just, like, the table realizing that one of the best ways to win a game of Commander is to have a whole bunch of lands in play and everybody get that person.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's what should happen. Okay, so where are we at on the list here? I don't... let's count down from 8, 7, 6,
crud.
5. All right, I'm on to my number 4.
1, 2.
My number 4 is Iona, Shield of Ameria.
What does that do?
This card is 6 white for a legendary creature, Angel, 7/7 flying. As Iona, Shield of Ameria enters the battlefield, choose a color. your opponents can't cast spells of the chosen color. So, yeah, this card's mean. And so here's the thing.
It always says blue, doesn't it?
Well, no, not necessarily. What the thing is, I have a penchant for playing with monocolored decks. I really like the deck building constraints with a monocolored deck. I try to
True.
I like to see how far I can push them, and like that constraint breeds creativity, and I find like fun cards to play. And so I have a lot of monocolored decks, and if I'm playing a monocolored deck and this hits the table, I'm like, and again, it's that common theme of like not letting you play Magic.
Right.
And this is like one of the worst offenders. And like sometimes like, there'll be like a mono green player and a green red player, and they name green, and it's like 1.5 players just like left the game.
Right.
And if they have ways to protect this, or like can equip lightning greaves, it's just nasty. I mean, thank goodness it costs 9, but there's no text about not reanimating it, right? Like you can get this into play early. So yeah, Iona, I don't like you.
Yeah, like that's actually a card I just wouldn't play.
Same.
All
All right, so we're down to number 3.
Yep.
And so far we've only overlapped on 1.
Yep.
All right.
I don't know if we're gonna overlap, but we'll see.
I picked 2, you picked 3.
Yep. So my next one is Back to Basics.
Oh, okay. Definitely not an overlap for me.
It's an enchantment. It's 2 and a blue. Non-basic lands don't untap during their controller's untap steps. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of lean towards 3-color decks. Maybe that's a little greedy. It probably is. And are my land bases greedy? Yeah, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Because like I'm definitely running multiple fetches and shocks and pain lands and
oh my
everything. Yeah, right. And like that kind of deal just shuts me. Like I have decks that just have like 3 of each basic land type in there, and it comes back to the theme with my list of denying you being able to play Magic.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's just annoying. No one's ever actually played this against me, but if they did, I'm just
the salt level. Give me some crackers. I need some saltines.
Right.
I'm so bad. Yeah, I think that's a totally fine card. At least it hits them too. So,
yeah, it does.
Like it's hard to run, like unless they're just playing a ton of basics.
Right.
Right?
And I don't feel like it's an unfair card. It's really not. And I definitely am self-aware enough to know that, yeah, my mana base is a little greedy.
But greed is good, right? Okay.
I mean, I love that card. I love that card.
Okay.
What's your next one?
My number 3 we already talked about was Vorinclex.
Okay.
So should I we'll switch positions? I'll go to number 2.
Yep.
All right. My number 2 is a card called Aura Shards.
Yeah.
Not on your list?
No.
Okay. All right. Aura Shards is 1 green-white for an enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. Okay. So here's the scoop. We tell people to play with artifact and enchantment removal because you need it and it's good. And those are the cards that mess you up. And this is an enchantment and it'll mess you up. But here's the thing. I love playing artifacts and enchantments.
I do.
And when I see this card coming down onto the board, I'm like, oh man. Again, I'm like, I can't play Magic. Usually this happens. Like it comes in play and I'm like, all right, I have 5 cards in hand and 3 of them are artifacts and enchantments.
Ugh.
And like none of them kill an artifact or enchantment. So I gotta like try to dig and find removal. And in the meantime, all the fair creature decks are just like more creatures. And I'm like and like my things that were defending me are getting killed. And yeah, it just is very an anti-pattern to the way I play, and messes me up. And every time I hit the board, I probably like actually physically groan.
Yeah. And it's green and white.
Yep.
That's a card I'll never play. I've never played a green white deck.
I have a old like Sigarda Enchantress deck that's pretty cool. Like this was before the Bant Enchantress.
Bantris?
Yeah, Banchantress came out. So all right, that was my number 2.
Was the Aura Shards in that deck?
Yes. I mean, yes. It's an enchantment. I'm just using it to draw cards.
Yeah, totally. So
right. What's your number 2?
My number 2. Okay. You know what cards I feel like you know cards. What do you think it might be?
I saw the picture.
Did you? Okay.
Yes. I'm sorry, I can't.
No, it's fine. I know it was in your line of sight. It was in your field of vision. You just had to see it, right? Like, okay. Well, I mean, you know what it is now.
I'm just saying that's what I do when people show me their hand.
It's true.
Like
I've started doing it to people too. Even if I can't see their hands, I'm just like, and they're like, what? And I was like, I can see your hand.
It's right here.
Yeah, right. So my number 2 card is Blood Moon. It's 2 and a red enchantment. Non-basic lands are mountains. I don't know, that's real aggravating to me because, again, I run a lot of non-basic lands that are fixers, and if they only make red and I'm not playing red,
or even if you are playing red, it's like in a 3-color deck, it's still cutting you off of 66% of your stuff. I will say I have a lot of mono red decks, and I don't read this card.
Yeah, I would, and like,
I also am greedy, and I like to play with a lot of utility lands. So
yeah, I get that. My this I've definitely before in the past been like, this card needs to be banned in Modern, and I still stick by that. But it goes back to,
let's do that gesture together. Get off my lawn, Blood Moon.
Right. I need to get like a gauntlet of some sort. Maybe the animatronic or Infinity Gauntlet.
Or like a gauntlet with like all the different mana symbols instead of the gems. That'd be sweet.
That would be sweet. Cosplayers, hit us up. At Brothers Warcast.
All right. So that was number 2, right?
Yeah, and it's just more land denial.
Oh yeah. No, it's definitely on theme here. Okay. So any guesses to my number 1?
Cyclonic Rift.
No.
I don't know.
I mean, Cyclonic Rift feels bad sometimes, but like, I don't know. Like,
that's fine.
I go back and forth. Okay. My number 1 is an enchantment. It's called Painful Quandary.
I don't even know what that does.
3 black for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player loses 5 life unless he or she discards a card. So this is like Bogus, but like
way worse. Yeah.
Like this card, it feels so bad because you're like, well, I don't want to play Magic now because if I cast a spell, I'm paying 5 life, and that adds up super quickly. Or I'm discarding cards, in which case, like now I'm like empty-handed. Like you need to have like some like onboard way of like repeatable draw to like even fight against this. So it's like enchantment removal or kind of go home. Don't love the Painful Quandary.
Yeah, that's like it's like negative reinforcement.
Well, and the worst part about it, whenever an opponent, right, the person who played this completely scot-free.
That's gross. Were you there when I was playing Niv Mizzet and I was like, when somebody like draw a card, I'd be like, 1 damage to your face, 1 damage to your face, and I was just like, and Brandon was like, why are you doing that? And I was like, negative reinforcement. Or if someone would remind me that I missed a trigger, I'd be like, -1 damage.
That's what you get for reminding me.
Right?
Take it.
And if you want to listen to how to get people salty, that's how you do it.
There you go. Way to tie it back together. I love it. All right. So number 1, I'm purposely not looking.
Okay. Number 1 is not a single card. Also,
what?
It's a concept.
Is it time?
No.
It's a concept. Okay.
Well, it's a keyword.
It's a keyword.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
It's something that creatures have.
Is it infect?
No, I like infect.
Okay. Is it haste?
No.
Is it lifelink?
No.
Wow. I'm trample.
No.
Flying.
No.
First strike.
No.
Okay. Go.
Yeah, all those things are fine. When I say it, you're gonna be like, oh, Annihilator.
Oh, yeah. All right. There it is.
Like I like Eldrazi, I do, but I definitely don't play Eldrazi that have Annihilator. Annihilator just feels bad. You know, one of the cards has is Pathways of Rulamog for 11. It's a 9/9, has Annihilator 3. Can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures. Kozilek Butcher of Truth, 10 for a 12/12, has Annihilator 4. The thing that's annoying about Annihilator is you can't do anything in response to stop it, right? They declare their attacks. This guy's attacking. Immediately, 4 things gone.
Yeah, and I mean, you can take the risk, like, maybe they're not going to attack me, but they probably
are. Like, I think my brand of deck is a known quantity within our play group. So, I've been sitting there happy with a bunch of, like, what appear to be random artifacts and enchantments, and they're like, oh, Zach's plotting something. Get him.
Well, and the thing is, like, Annihilator, like, it's another one of those mechanics that snowballs, right? Like, the more, like, it's harder to deal with, and then, like, you don't have a lot of lands, probably, because you sack those to Annihilator.
Yeah.
And then, like, you get attacked again, and you're like, oh, man, now, like, it kind of feels like destroy all of target players' lands, almost.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not exactly that, but it's close. And that's a feel bad, because again, it feels kind of personal, probably, which we would, say probably try to not do.
Right.
Like try to not take it personally. But it's hard with Annihilator. It really is.
And the thing is, if creatures Annihilator, if Annihilator only kicked in if they dealt damage. You say I blocked an Annihilator creature and the Annihilator didn't happen.
Right.
I'd be totally okay with that. That makes a little bit more sense.
Chumpable Annihilator.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, get your Goblin Matron in there.
Yeah.
Goblin Chump.
Somebody on Facebook was talking about that. They were like, I don't know who it was. It may have been Danny K, but it was like, I know you call Goblin Matron Goblin Chump Blocker, but Goblin Chump Blocker's done a lot of work for me. I was like, yeah, I get that.
Actually, I think it was Niels.
Was it Niels?
I think so.
Okay, I don't remember. My memory's real bad.
All right, so there's our list, right? Yep. That is our top 8 cards that get these two podcast peeps a little salty.
Too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right, so, okay. So in summary, Magic's a great game, right? It's an amazing game, and it's an amazing game with an amazing community. And if we all try to make it a little better and try to, look inward and try to not get as salty as often as we do, and maybe also try to not notice when other people might be candidates for salt and maybe ease off a little bit there. I think that, and even going one further, when people do get salty, kind of going okay, we've all been there. Yeah. Right. We all get salty sometimes. And my sometimes is now. But no, it just have a little empathy, right? I think that's kind of what it boils down to. And I think if we could all do that, if that's the one thing that the audience could take away from the show, I think that could make our community a better place. And that's why we do this.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just going to make the community better, thinking about other players and whatnot. And it's just, it's a good thing for the game. It's a good thing for life.
Putting on a size 11.5 flip-flop.
Yep. But not if you're at a Magic Fest. I learned that the hard way when we were in LA. Ryan was like, don't wear flip-flops, right? And I'm like, no, I'll be fine, man. I just want to be comfortable. And I've got shin splints. I'm like, oh, I should have worn shoes, Ryan. Why didn't you tell me? I'm like, Ryan, carry me on your back. And he's like, no. I was like, oh.
Oh, all right. Perfect. Okay. So, thank you, everyone, for watching. Yes. Please remember to like and subscribe below in the comments there. Mm-hmm. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Green Geek.
I'm at Z4CK38.
And together we are at Brothers Warcast.
Yep.
All right. So thanks for sticking around. And until next time, this is the Brothers War saying geek out.